Hello everyone, welcome to episode 2 of my new series called One Idea, in which I share one idea for you to get started with jazz guitar. And today's episode is about diminished arpeggios, coming right up. So if you didn't see the first episode, I would recommend watching that first, because I'll be referring to what I said in that episode throughout this episode. So maybe watch that episode first and then come back to this one, because then it will make more sense. So in the first episode, I started talking about the Hemert system, or explaining the basics of it, about identifying the notes of a chord on the high E string and then putting your first finger on that note and then having a line there. So we talked about C7 and then resolving that to F, and then we put our first finger on the root of C7, on the third, on the fifth, and on the seventh. And then we had a line, right? And it resolved to a 1 chord, to an F chord. And today's episode is introducing another concept, which is really not part of the Van Hemert system. It doesn't use the same principles, but it is a very important part of playing jazz, and especially jazz guitar, just because what I'm talking about, diminished arpeggios, are very convenient to play on the guitar neck, just because of the nature of diminished arpeggios. So the first thing you have to know about diminished arpeggios, before I go into how you play them, is that there are only 3 different diminished arpeggios before they start repeating. What do I mean by that? Is when you have a diminished chord, let's say we have this diminished chord, this diminished chord. Maybe you've never played it, but you can try it right now. I'm playing the top 4 strings, and I'm playing 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret. So 2nd, 3rd, 2nd, 3rd. Now I can shift it 1 fret up and have another diminished chord. And I can shift 1 more fret up and have another one. But the next one is the same as the first one. Of course, it's not the same order of notes, but it's the same notes, right? Because in this diminished arpeggio, for instance, I have a G, I have a D flat, I have a B flat, and I have an E. And in this diminished arpeggios, I have a B flat, an E, a D flat, and a G. So those are the same exact notes. And then the same happens again. I can shift it 1 fret up, and the next one is the same as the second one and the first one. So a good way to look at this is if you shift a diminished chord, and it doesn't matter how you finger that diminished chord, you can do it like this, or you could play one on the middle 4 strings, right? Or you could play one like this. Whatever you want to do, you can always shift that 3 frets up. Or what I like to do is I have an empty fret. I have to move my hand past that empty fret, and again, and here's the empty fret there, right? And of course, if I slide that first diminished chord 1 fret up, I have the same principle again. Skip this fret, this fret. So there are only 3 diminished arpeggios chords before they start repeating themselves, and the same is about diminished arpeggios. And what that means, we'll talk about a little bit later, but just keep that in mind. So the first thing I want to start talking about is how you can play diminished arpeggio on the guitar neck, and how I play them, and how I think you should start playing them too. There are more possibilities. In fact, I have a video on my channel called The Definitive Guide to Dim Arpeggios. If you're curious about what else is possible with diminished arpeggios, you can check that video. I will link it. But that's not really beginner stuff. So if you're a beginner and you want to know the basics of diminished arpeggio, which are very important to know, then this video will do. So I'm going to play a diminished arpeggio starting on the A string. We're going to start all diminished arpeggios in this video on the low A string, and we can start them from 4 different notes, but we'll talk about that later. I want to start them for now from an E. So here's an E. Right? It's the 7th fret on the A string, and I'm going to put my 3rd finger on it, and then I'm going to sweep to the 1st finger on the next string, or if you're an alto picker, you can alternate pick, whatever you want. And then I'm going to play this note. So you get this kind of movement. 3, 1, and then stretch 3. Of course, you could play 3, 1, 4, but there is a reason that I think that 3, 1, 3 is better. So let's get first past the fingering, and then I'll talk about why. So 3, 1, 3. Then this shape, you shift up a complete 1 fret on the next string, right? So, and then you play this little shape on the highest 3 strings. So, and then you complete the arpeggio by playing the 3rd finger again. So one more time, I will say the fret numbers. I have tab too, but I first want you to look at the neck and listen, so you get the sound of the diminished arpeggio in your ears. So it's 7, 5, 8, 6, 9, 8, 6. I'm not sure that's correct, but I mean the notes were correct, but I'm not sure I said the right numbers. One more time. 7, 5, 8, 7, 5, 8, 6, 9, 8, 6. Yeah. And then play another 9th fret. Now, so we're starting on an E, and I'm thinking about C7. And the rule for the diminished arpeggio is that you can use this exact same fingering if you put your 3rd finger on every chord tone of C7, except for the root. So we'll talk about the root later. So let's just skip the root. Let's start with the 3rd. That's an E. We just played that. The next note in C7 would be a G. So find the G, and then play this exact same fingering. Right? 3, 1, stretch, and then play from the 7. That's a B flat. So we have 3, right? One from starting from the 3rd, that's an E. From the G, that was the 5th, and then from the B flat, that's the 7th. You only have to play them up, because we rarely play that down, so it's not necessary to learn that for this video. Just play them up. Now the root, we really can't play them from the root, because there is no C in a diminished arpeggio that fits over C7. That's not important to know. Just remember, you can start them on the 3, on the 5 and the 7. Now, if you want to play from the root, instead of the root, I'm going to play it from 1 fret higher, the flat 9. So it's a D flat, and then I can do the same thing. Now you notice that this fingering stays the same, and I shift 3 frets up. It's the same as the chords. I can shift them 3 frets up, and then I have the same shape. And for the diminished arpeggios too, I play the first one from the D flat. Instead of from the D flat, I 3 frets up from the E, and then from the G, and then from the B flat. So, there. So D flat, E, sorry, D flat, E, G, B flat. Now the first thing you're gonna practice is this exact same thing I did just now. Play them all 4 in a row. Of course, after you've mastered the fingerings, do that with a metronome. Use my metronome system, in which I referred to in the first video, and then just go back to my backing track of Hans Rose, and the first 4 bars, C7. You can play all 4 of them, 1 per bar, and then the 4 bars of F, you're just resting. So let me demonstrate it. I'm going to go to Hans Rose. Backing track is on my YouTube channel, link in the description, and I'm just going to play all 4 of these arpeggios in the A parts. Now, if it's too fast for you, of course, you can use YouTube to put it on half speed or 3/4, and then eventually do full speed, of course. And one more time, here we go. can also play them from until here. So you give yourself some time to go to the next one. So let's do that. You don't have to play the whole thing, just skip the last note. Bridge, F7, B flat, G7. Now on the last A I'm gonna play it, but then the other way around. So start here. Yeah. And then you can make it more difficult for yourself. You could play. I'm gonna play the first one, and then the third one. I'm back to the second one, and then the fourth one. Right? You could, or play randomly. Let's do that a little bit. So I'm not gonna play them in order, but just anyone that I wanna play. Like that. And after you have that in your fingers, I want you to do one more thing. Take the first one, so the one that starts on the flat 9, and also practice that starting on the root. But now you say, but you just said you can't play the root. No, you can't. You cannot play a diminished arpeggio from the root. What you can do is just substitute that first note with a C, but then play the rest of the diminished arpeggio the same. So instead of, I'm gonna do, and the rest of the diminished arpeggios are the same. You can only do that with the one that is starting on the flat 9. Now you can start in the root by just substituting that one note. Let me play that a little bit for you. So instead of doing this, I'm gonna do this with flat 9. Oh, F, yeah. Root, then root, flat 9. Okay, after you've got that down, now you're gonna go to the bridge. Of course, there's F7 to B flat. Now on the F7, there's 2 bars. You could play 2 of them on F7. Of course, the position changes because you can again play them from the flat 9 of F7, which is a G flat. It's right here. From the third, is here. From the fifth, that's a C. And from the 7, that's an E flat. And of course, you can play the first one that starts on the flat 9, also starting on the root by substituting the flat 9 for the root. And you can play 2 of them, so the bridge comes like 1, 2, 3, 4. B flat. Then we get G7. G7 2 bars. We can do the same thing. You can start on the flat 9, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th. Right? So A flat, B, D, F. Or substitute the flat 9 with the root. So instead of an A flat, start on the G. Right? Of course, it will go slowly in the beginning. You have to practice them all separately. But the concept is very simple because there's only 3 different diminished arpeggios possible. Now, if you think about it, if the first one, this one, fits on C7, what's the first note? That's a D flat, right? A D flat is the 7th note, for example, of E flat. So the diminished arpeggio for E flat 7 and C7, those are the same. Now, maybe you don't understand it directly, but if you just take a song and look at the dominant chords, find all the diminished arpeggios, and you do it for a couple of songs, then all of a sudden you start to realize, hey, I'm using this diminished arpeggio on different chords, and they all sound good. And that's how diminished works. Because there's only 3, so there's many chords that fit with one diminished arpeggio. Not important if you don't understand the theory, it's really not important. But what's more important is that you realize how you can use them, right? You can start one on the flat 9 of a dominant chord, only dominant chords, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th, or you can substitute the flat 9 with the root. So one more example, let's say it's D7. I can start on E flat, that's a flat 9. I start on F sharp. I can start on A. I can start on C. And the first one that starts on the flat 9, so on E flat, I can substitute that E flat with a D. Okay, now we're going to go to the tab. So, by the way, guys, if you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. That really helps me out. And if you want to download this tab and also the tabs for all my other videos, please check the link in the description to my Patreon, and there you'll find all the tabs can be downloaded from there. So what I did is I used those 4 diminished arpeggios and made the resolution for you to F. So, for instance, in this diminished arpeggio starts on the root, right? So it's the one that starts on the flat 9, but I've substituted the root with the flat 9 with the root, and it resolves to F. Now I see in the tab the F is written 1 bar too late, but I will correct that for Patreon. The F should be in the 2nd bar. Resolve. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can play this again on Hansa rows. You can play this in the 4th bar, resolving to F. And of course, as always, you can play this 2 bars too early, or 2 beats too early, or 2 beats too late. I talk about it in the first video. So let me do that. So what I'm going to do is, the first 3 bars I'm going to play some diminished arpeggios, and then the 4th bar I'm going to play exactly this line. So one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's take the tab away so you can focus on guitar neck. Here we go. You know what? Maybe one time so you can follow, I will do it at half tempo. So of course that sounds awful on YouTube, the half tempo, but it works. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we go. Second A. Maybe I'll start on the 5th. 7. 3rd. And lick. Bridge. So let's do the 3rd on F7. Lick. So the bridge, what I did is I transposed that lick to F7, right? It's the exact same lick as this one, but now I start on F. And because I started this on the bar right before B flat, so the 2nd bar of F7, the 1st bar of F7, I just played a diminished arpeggio, one that we already practiced, so I did the one starting on the 3rd of F7, that's A, and then the lick. Then we get 2 bars G7, we can play the diminished arpeggios thing, and then the 3rd A, again, I'll do the same thing. So let me play the whole thing at tempo. And then the 1st A, I will do 4 bars or 3 bars of silence, and then in the 4th bar I'll play the lick, so you know exactly where it is. So, 1st bar, 2nd bar, 3rd bar, here we go. Now I'm gonna play on the other bars too. Bridge. F7 and lick. C7. 3rd A. Lick. Now the thing is, you don't have to start all these diminished arpeggios exactly on the 1, right? You could start them on any beat. The 2nd beat, the 3rd beat, the 4th beat. You could even start them off beat with diminished arpeggios instead of playing 1, 2, 3, 4. You could play 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So you turn the notes around. But you don't have to do that. You can just start them on the beat. Okay. Next part. We're going to the 2nd lick on this page. which starts, is a diminished arpeggio. We already practiced the one starting on the third, this one. But it resolves like this. So I have to do this or do this. 2-1, so 3-1, 3-1 or 2-1. So again, the F7 should be in the second bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. F, not F7, F6. It's F. I will correct that. And you do the exact same thing. So let me do the exact same thing. 3 bars, C7, do whatever you want. You could do rest, and then the fourth bar you play this. And then the bridge, you play it on the second bar of F7. On F7, it would start on the A, it would be here. Okay, let me do that. 1, 2, 3. Lick. Bridge. Lick. And then of course you're going to combine those two licks. So you can play in the fourth bar, you can play the first lick or the second lick. Let me show you that a little bit. Yeah? Of course, I realize I'm going fast, but you have to do all the work first. Like first practice the licks with a metronome, make sure you can play them, then only play that lick like I did in the first video. Practice everything like that, and then all these combinations, they will come, and it will take many hours of practice, but this is the way to get there, right? Okay, let's go to the third one. Of course, it starts on the fifth, right? We call that, I call that, well, actually it's not the fifth position of C, because no, that's my Van Hemert system. This has nothing to do with the Van Hemert system. This is just diminished arpeggios. It starts on the fifth. We already practiced that diminished arpeggio. The resolution, I put the F on the wrong spots in all these examples. That's because it's copy-pasted the chords. So I will correct that before I upload to Patreon. But this sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me play that on the fourth bar again, and then from the second A on, I will start maybe messing around with other diminished arpeggios and also with the other options, the other licks. 1, 2, 3, here we go. Oh, sorry. I missed it. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Bridge. To think a bit, so in the bridge, we're playing from the fifth, so start on F, on the C, because F7, then we play. Yeah, that's a lick. Okay, again. Go. Was a little too late, but also works. Bridge. And then the last one for this video is this one, starting on the 7th, like this, from the B flat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, with the backing track. 1, 2, 3. The E flat. First lick. From the 3rd. Fifth. The 2 from the 7th for F7 from the E flat. Fifth. Yeah. Oh. That's how it works. Oh, sorry, I had to. And now you combine it with the stuff from the first video, because we have lots of stuff now for C7, right? We have diminished arpeggios, we have those scales down. We have two ways of resolving. We can resolve from a diminished arpeggio, like in this video, or we can resolve from the downward scale. And maybe you can make a little system for yourself, like, okay, the first A I'm gonna resolve from the downward scale. The second A I'm gonna do it from the diminished arpeggio starting on the 3rd. The bridge, I'm gonna do a downward scale from the 7th position. Stuff like that. You can make a little system, you can make a little note and try to follow that, or you can be completely free. So I'm gonna be completely free, but I'm gonna only use stuff from both videos. sorry. It's quite challenging because you have to constantly think, okay, what can I do here? It's even challenging for me because, of course, there's lots of other stuff I want to play. I did it one time. That's when I said sorry. But this is the exercise that I don't do that. The exercise that I only try to make a solo from these building blocks. And that is a good exercise even for advanced players, right? Limit yourself and only try to use the tools that you decided on at the beginning of the exercise. Of course, if you're a beginner, it's the only tools you have so far. But then it's still very difficult because you have to take care of your time, you have to take care of your technique, you have to take care of your tone, then you have to play it at the right place, although you always have 2 beats of leeway. You have to remember the fingerings, you have to remember the resolutions, and then also you have to be creative. So that's a long process. Don't get me wrong, it's a long process, but it is doable, right? You don't have to swim in the unknown with a scale and then people telling you, oh yeah, just play some, make some music. No, you have some phrases here that actually sound good. You have some resolutions that work. Now it's just fitting everything together like a big puzzle. And it's a lot of practice, but it's worth it. I promise that. And I will continue this series and give you more and more tools. But don't forget to practice every tool separately and very seriously, preferably with a metronome. For that, check out my metronome system. There's a video in which I show you how I practice new lines. It's linked in the description. And also don't forget to check episode 1 if you haven't already. And then I will see all of you in the next video. Bye!